Don Knotts was one of the most unforgettable faces in the history of American television. But behind that famous smile and comic genius was a life filled with darkness, pain, and endless struggles. Don Knotts lived with fear every day. He grew up in poverty, suffered through abuse, and carried emotional wounds that never truly healed. So in today's special episode, let's explore the heartbreaking story of Don Knotts. Don Knotts was born in Morgantown, West Virginia, on July 21, 1924. His birth was not planned. His mother was already 40 years old and his family was barely surviving after losing their farm. There were already 3 older brothers in the house, and they all lived in a crowded, noisy home. Don didn't even have a room of his own. He slept on a cot in the kitchen. The family was so poor that they rented out their only bedroom to strangers. This was not a loving or comfortable childhood. Don was a small, skinny, and often sick child. He wore old clothes that didn't fit and was mocked by other children at school. But even worse than the bullying was what waited for him at home. His father, William Jesse Knotts, was almost blind, deeply mentally ill, and a violent alcoholic. He would often lie on the sofa all day, drunk and dangerous. Young Don had to walk past him every day, terrified that his father might suddenly attack. Sometimes, his father even pressed a knife to his throat, threatening to kill him. This level of fear and trauma shaped Don's personality forever. When Don was 13 years old, his father died of pneumonia. Instead of crying, Don felt relief. But that didn't mean life got easier. His older brothers were angry and cruel. They called Don weak and treated him badly. One of them, nicknamed Shadow, was the only one who brought laughter into Don's life. He teased and joked, giving Don a small glimpse of happiness. But Shadow died young from an asthma attack. After that, Don was alone emotionally. He turned inward to survive. He created imaginary friends and made up stories in his mind. These daydreams were his only escape. But then, he found something better: ventriloquism. At the age of 15, he made a dummy named Danny and began performing at schools, churches, and community events. For the first time, people laughed for him. He wasn't invisible anymore. He had found a stage where he could matter. Don tried to chase his dreams in New York, but he failed. So he came back to West Virginia and joined college, and then came World War II. In 1943, at just 19 years old, he was drafted into the US Army. Because of his fragile body and nervous energy, he was placed in the 6,817th Special Services Battalion, where his job was to entertain troops. He toured with a show called Stars and Grips, performing in faraway places like the South Pacific. He brought laughs to soldiers even as bombs fell nearby. At first, Don was still using his dummy, Danny Hooch Matador, in his shows. But after 2 years, he grew tired of it. The dummy was getting more laughs than he was, and he wanted to be seen, truly seen. One night on a ship crossing the Pacific, he picked up the dummy and threw it overboard. It was symbolic, like cutting off an old version of himself. From that moment, Don decided he would never hide behind a puppet again. He would stand on stage as himself. After the war, Don returned to West Virginia University, finished his degree in theater, and married a woman named Catherine Metz in 1948. That same year, with just $100, he moved to New York City to chase his dreams of becoming an actor, but New York was cruel to a nervous, skinny man with a shaking voice. He was rejected again and again, but still, he didn't give up. In 1953, he finally landed a role in a TV soap opera called Search for Tomorrow. His character, Wilbur Peterson, was so nervous, he could barely speak. Don used his own childhood pain to bring that role to life. Over the next 2 years, he appeared in around 500 episodes, and that made producers pay attention. In 1955, he also acted in a Broadway show called No Time for Sergeants, and that's where he met Andy Griffith. Their connection was instant. Later, they both starred in the movie version of No Time for Sergeants, which made $7.6 million at the box office. a huge number at that time. Their friendship continued. Then in 1960, Don saw Andy acting as Sheriff Andy Taylor in a guest appearance on The Danny Thomas Show, and he called Andy and said, "Don't you think Sheriff Andy should have a deputy?" That call changed Don's life forever. He was hired to play Deputy Barney Fife on The Andy Griffith Show, and America instantly fell in love. Barney wasn't just funny, he was unforgettable. His shaking hands, his one bullet kept in his shirt pocket, his overconfidence, and his complete lack of skill made him a comic genius. Between 1961 and 1963, Don won 3 back-to-back Emmy Awards, and eventually he won 5 total, all for playing Barney. But behind the camera, Don was struggling. He had deep health anxiety and believed he was constantly sick, even when doctors said he wasn't. He had panic attacks, stomach problems, and used tranquilizers just to get through the day. His childhood trauma never truly left him. In 1965, thinking The Andy Griffith Show would end, Don signed a 5-picture deal with Universal Studios, but the show kept going without him. Don was heartbroken but couldn't break the contract. His movie career began with The Ghost and Mr. Chicken in 1966. It was made for just $670,000, but earned over $3.5 million, equivalent of about $100 million of today. That success led to more films like The Reluctant Astronaut, The Shakiest Gun in the West, and How to Frame a Fig. Not all of them were hits, but small-town audiences loved them, especially in the South and Midwest. In 1969, Don tried to change his image with a movie called The Love God, playing a magazine publisher similar to Hugh Hefner. It failed. The audience didn't accept him in that kind of role, and by the early 1970s, his movie career was cooling. Hollywood was changing. Edgier films were taking over, and Don's innocent comedy seemed outdated. Then came another chance. In 1979, Don joined Three's Company as the goofy landlord Ralph Furley. His flashy clothes, exaggerated expressions, and clueless confidence brought a whole new generation of fans. He stayed on the show until it ended in 1984, and he brought joy once again, even as he was silently dealing with personal pain. In 1986, he reunited with Andy Griffith for Return to Mayberry and later joined Andy again on the show Matlock, playing a friendly neighbor. He also lent his voice to cartoons and made guest appearances on various TV shows, but Don's final years were filled with sadness. Now, don't hesitate to comment down your opinion on this, and while you're down there, make sure to smash that subscribe button for more future content.